Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast Heal for Real Radio. My name is Ashley Dawson, and I am joined with the beautiful Mirinmooney, who is on the episode today, and we are going to explore the world of nervous system regulation. So specifically speaking, the topic today is unleashing your inner calm and the secrets to mastering your nervous system regulation. And Mirin does a lot of work on her own healing journey and with people as well, within her own business and her own practice, helping people connect to themselves and regulate their nervous system, which may have been thrown off for XYZ reasons. So we're going to explore that world today. So thank you so much for joining me, Mirin.
Yay! I'm really excited to be here. I always enjoy our conversations together. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. We do have amazing topics and amazing conversations, and we just say the things that need to be said, I feel. So yeah, I always feel very complete after we get together. So thank you for being here. I would love it if you could introduce to the audience yourself and a little bit more about your expertise and what it is that you do.
Perfect. I'll try to keep it short. I did this recently and I went on, I think, for 20 minutes about myself. So we'll try to do maybe a little bit less.
Whatever you feel you need to say, go for it.
Yeah. Who knows? Anyway, so I'm Mirin, and I've done many different things in my life. At the moment, it's been to do with mental and emotional well-being for a long time. I started with kind of mindfulness and yoga, and then through energy healing and other things. And at the moment, I am now, for the last couple of years, I've been focusing on mental health coaching. And again, my focus there has shifted many times over the years. At the moment, I am focusing in on boundaries, because really boundaries are all about, self-expression. And I think that's always really been what my work has been about, helping other people to know, love, and express their true, authentic selves. And so part of that self-love is a big part of the work I do. Nervous system regulation is a big part of the work I do, along with trauma healing. And I'd say those are the cornerstones, but then there's like loads of things that come into it with that. So yeah, and just last thing, I guess what brought me to this work, obviously, is not obviously, but for me, what was just my own experience and my own struggles with my mental health, and knowing myself, loving myself, being brave enough to express myself, and kind of my own personal journey has been what has inspired me to do this work.
I love that. So beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it's unique. And at the same time, what makes it so beautiful is that I know that a lot of healers that I speak to, it always roots back to their own journey that really inspires them the most. And I think that's how we find the empathy and the compassion to give our entire selves, to our practice and to helping people evolve and go through all the barriers that we had to go through. So I love that. I love the work that you do. And the more that we speak, the more I realize how similar our work is. And I don't think I actually realized it, because when you hear our quote unquote our titles and whatever, they don't sound very similar, but then we talk about it and I mean it all crosses over anyway. But I love that our specialties are actually pretty much more aligned than I thought. So that's pretty cool. And you're doing it, we're all doing it in different corners of the globe as well. So I think it's cool that there are a lot of people doing the work that we're doing, which is really, really awesome. So good for you, and for all the women that we're in connection with in our community for doing all this stuff. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, and it's great to connect, to be connecting from all corners of the globe. And it is just important, I think, to connect with our tribe, whoever our people are, having our people to support us, obviously, because we're stronger together and we heal together.
Yes, definitely. Like I had met you on a journey. I had left my home country and just went traveling because I needed a reset. I needed to find my center again. I was so sick of society and the patterns. And then that's when I met you, was really like listening to myself and doing what I intuitively knew I needed to do. And I just kind of went and wandered. And then I found you, and I found, you know, Kelly and Lauren and all the amazing people who pretty much is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, they inspired me to just do what my heart wanted me to do. So yeah, it's powerful when people start listening to themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely. So powerful. And it's weird because I like sometimes when I'm talking about it, it sounds like such a simple thing and like it should be such an intuitive and natural thing, but the reality is it isn't, because you know, the world we live in has taught us to not trust of ourselves. Has taught us that we're not enough, that it's not safe to express ourselves. We're not taught to regulate ourselves. And so although it sounds so simple, unfortunately most people have all these barriers in the way, but also it is something that anyone and everyone can learn. You just go and look for it. And like you said, I think when you go on that journey of looking, you what you need comes to you, and what you need isn't necessarily always what you want.
Right.
But and especially traveling, like we were saying earlier, is a great way of healing as well.
Definitely. Yes. And then like in terms of your like specialty of mental wellness and mental health, I love that you've now kind of like incorporated the physiological aspect of it as well, because you can't heal the mind and not have a physiological response. So I love that you're purposely incorporating that somatic connection into your practices as well. And yeah, and I mean, I do it as well. So I understand how powerful it is for myself, and then, you know, for people that I work with, but that's you know, you can't have one without the other. So it's
Definitely.
bringing awareness to it, you know, that's so powerful. And you know, that's really what we'll be talking about today is nervous system regulation. And it's just a byproduct of healing your mind, and that is the work that you do. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, so important, the body. And actually just going back to the beginning of my journey, I was so disconnected from my body, and so I went to talking therapy back then, and I couldn't, I didn't know what was wrong. I couldn't put words to it. And so it was going through and starting doing yoga, starting doing mindfulness, starting doing things that worked with the body, that then allowed me to get into the mental and verbal way of expressing and healing it. But they're so that, they're so connected, working with body and mind. And I think, yeah, in all the work with I do, I'm a mental health coach, but we always work with the physical and physiological as well.
And it opens so many doors, like as a practitioner, as a businesswoman. It's so smart, but as a human, it just makes sense, because so often I hear from clients of mine and just people in passing that, talking therapy, it only has taken them so far. So incorporating that extra mile of healing, aka the body and the physiological healing, and nervous system regulation, which, goes into, it regulates your hormones eventually, and everything else regulates, but that's really the main focus today. But yeah, the talking therapy only goes so far. So you incorporating that extra service or that extra specialty and focus, it just allows people to go farther. And for you as a practitioner, it enhances your healing capabilities, because you're taking people farther than what they can do with just talking. And and it's great, talking is great, and it does so much good, but some people just get to a point where they can't evolve in that way, and they need to try something different. So yeah, it's really great to incorporate different modalities to be able to take people farther to where they need to go.
Definitely. And yeah, talking therapy is great. But yeah, just there's sometimes, where we get stuck in the stories. Even I'm just thinking of recent experiences, you're stuck in the story you have in your mind, and kind of in that situation, I'd get a client to slow down and actually tune in with the body, and to, again, calm the nervous system, also to think more clearly. So yeah, collaborative, holistic approach. It's the way to go. And so I'm training as a psychotherapist. And there is, I think, I don't know, I didn't train first to train 20 years ago, but to me, it seems that even in that sphere, there's more talk about the nervous system and working with the body, which is cool.
And yeah, like I don't even think that sense of awareness, that word awareness I brought, is like talking can bring awareness to all these things, because when people have experienced something traumatic, and I want to use another word like other than trauma, but maybe help me think of another word, because sometimes there's like such a niche or such a stigma around the word trauma, but anything that makes you feel an overwhelm of emotion and something that you can't control, that you're not used to, that pushes you out of your comfort zone, I guess. That's going to throw off, it'll throw off that regulatory system that you're no longer feeling safe. And that's when that fight or flight comes in. And some people don't notice it when it first happens. So they don't even know what's happening to them. So they don't know how to process that stuff and that those feelings, those emotions. And so then, it becomes ingrained, and then they keep living with it. And then it just keeps building and building and building. And then all of a sudden now they have all these physical injuries. They don't know why. And then they'll maybe heal that, but there's that deeper healing that needs to be done. Because their entire nervous system is thrown off. So, they're just kind of going to go in circles and continue hurting themselves unless they bring awareness, to what's happening currently in their body. And so I think if we can maybe just chat about some amazing practices that we use with our clients and just in life, on how to give people insight on how to come back to that center and that sense of regulation.
Yeah. Definitely. Before we go into that, I'd love to actually just introduce gently, briefly, the nervous system.
Cool.
I suspect a lot of people listening will be familiar with it, but just in case anyone isn't. So there are different states of the nervous system, right? So there's the fight or flight, which you mentioned, which actually I think most people have heard of. It's that stress response. And so the reason you said that we get physical disease if we're chronically stuck in that stress response is that essentially when we are in that stress state, the body doesn't heal itself. It doesn't repair itself. It doesn't grow. We need to go into the rest and digest state in order for the body to heal and repair itself. And also I think there's a common misconception that being in nervous system dysregulation is being in a stress state, and that's not the problem. It's totally natural to go into that stress state. It's so totally natural to go into the fight or flight. The problem occurs when we can't easily switch between fight or flight and the rest and digest state, or when we're chronically stuck, when we're spending way too much time in that stress state.
Right, because there is such thing as positive stress, and so having those levels of cortisol, that can be healthy to kind of awaken our body and our mind, and that sense of arousal, and then there's the dopamine secretion, and so it can be healthy. But yes, it's that switching back, and it's the balance, it's the moderation, it's the chronic fight or flight. That I love that you use the word chronic, because that is when people develop these health issues that they don't that have gone too far and they don't know how to come back. And so again, teaching people how to switch over from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, thank you for saying that. I'm really glad you touched on that.
Yeah. I think it's important. And then just the last thing then is another nervous system state is the freeze response. That's when you're paralyzed, you're shut down. That's when you're totally overwhelmed by whatever is happening, and you just you shut down. There's also just one other one. There's the fawn response, which is kind of like a combination between the freeze and the fight or flight. I don't really want to confuse people too much because it's throwing too much out there. But I mean, that's basically what people pleasing is. People pleasing is that fawn response of doing what pretending to be who you need to be as a survival response. But I feel like that's a sidetrack, and I don't want to go too far that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are these three states, and basically healing work is about learning to move more fluidly and with more ease between them, so, instead of getting stuck in them.
Right. So and then recognizing that you're, what state that you are in, and that there's maybe a need to bring yourself back. Again, I think that would be the first step, is being able to recognize that you're in this fight or flight, and you may be, okay, it's time to not be in this state anymore. And then again, like, as I work deeper with my nervous system, like personally, like I realize that I don't even, in some situations where in my past I would be in a fight or flight state, I don't get into that state anymore, because I don't sense any danger, because I'm maybe better equipped or better prepared to deal with the situation with a level mind. So then there's no sense to react. Like I respond to situations rather than reacting now, as I get older and as I bring awareness and I'm conscious about all these things. But before, I never was. I didn't know. And so then obviously that there was that reaction there, that immediate like fight or flight. And it's funny, I went and saw a naturopath. For myself, it's one thing to be taking care of other people's health, but I took some time for my own.
Good.
Yeah, and she was saying that people don't really realize. Anyway, she just basically brought awareness to everything that I had, all the work that I'd done, and she was like, "What do you do the most?" is what she asked. Like, are you mainly in fight, or are you mainly in fight or flight? And I was like, well, that's a great question, and I never really thought about it. And I was like, honestly, like, I've always considered myself a free spirit, and I was like, I always maybe like attested my traveling to being a free spirit, but I was like, no. Thinking about that, when she asked me that question, I was like, that was flight. That was me running away and exercising, the ability to have the flight. And then there were other times where, like, I remember just like, I would just, there's nobody you fight more with than your own family, right? And so growing up, I remember just fighting so much with my family. And there were like moments where my partner now would be like, you wouldn't even recognize me. I would fight so hard, and I'd be screaming, and I would just be like everything in me was just like, felt so strong, and just felt like I could just like take everything on, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, so I've probably healthily exercised both fight and flight in my past. But again, now I don't really, I don't really recognize either of them like I would have before. And if I do exercise fight or flight now, they're going to look completely different than how I would have done them and exercise that, back in my past, where fighting would maybe just be standing my ground and saying no, and having a tough conversation, and flight would be like, I'm simply just walking away from this situation because this doesn't even need my energy or my attention. So yeah, so I thought that was pretty insightful of her to ask me that, and I had that reflection moment. I thought was pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's a cool thing to point out. I've had so many thoughts that came along as you're speaking there. I'm like, which direction do I go? I think one of the things that you did say that I think is important to highlight is that, yeah, like fight or flight is like totally necessary in some situations as well. Some situations we need to, fight or flee, for survival, and that's wonderful that we can do that. I think a problem we have is in this day and age is that it's our thoughts that generate that fight or flight response, and that's where it's like, okay, that's not actually necessary, and that's kind of where chronic fight or flight can happen.
Exactly. It's I don't want to say it's an incorrection in the perception. Like, it's not that someone's perceiving something incorrectly, because it's real for them, how they're perceiving it, that's their reality. But with awareness and bringing things to light, and talking about certain situations with certain people, and training your nervous system, you're going to start to understand that you will perceive things differently, whereas something that you would have considered a danger or a threat, that you once perceived it as that, it might not actually be a danger or a threat, after you've, that's why talking therapy is really great, because it often gives people a difference in perspective, an enlightening perspective that, with pieces of the puzzle that they maybe didn't have before. And just, just hearing somebody see something differently, you're like, oh yeah, maybe it's really not as bad as I thought it was.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And that's also another thing. So when we're in fight or flight, we don't think clearly. We also lose that ability to properly connect with other people. We lose the ability to have like proper conversations with people. We're also more likely to see danger where it's not there. So we'll perceive a neutral face as a threatening face. So it's just it's just being aware that when we are in that state, even our thoughts, we're more likely to have negative self-perception, to have negative beliefs about the world. Whereas when we're in a calmer state, where we're, in that rest and digest state, it's, we believe good things about ourselves. We believe positive things about the world. So even just that awareness that maybe your thoughts aren't your thoughts, they're being triggered by your nervous system state. It's a helpful thing to know.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's great. And so I'm curious what your, like, let's say you're in a situation with yourself or walking a client through, and they've, they've been in chronic fight or flight. What is like the first step that you do with them to kind of bring them into that state of awareness and to switching them into parasympathetic? And I know there's so many different techniques, but I'm just curious, like what your
My
favorite,
go-tos are.
or yeah.
I have favorite ones. There are lots out there, but I mean, so like you said, the first part is awareness, because often we're in fight or we're in that stress state and we don't realize it. So I'll do exercises with them to explore different situations and to discover all the really subtle signals their body sends them of when they are in that fight or flight state, so that you can catch it earlier and earlier, because it's much easier to calm ourselves down before we get super stressed, when we're only just slightly stressed, rather than from when we are in that full-blown stress response. So we'll do either guided meditations, or sometimes people are just able to think about it and reflect what are the more subtle signals in their body that show them they're in a stress state. A common one is chest, tightness around the chest, tingling in the chest. But some people, it's the churning in their belly, or the tension in their shoulders. So it's becoming aware of those early signals. Sometimes we do exercises where people just check in with themselves regularly throughout the day. So they develop that habit of checking in with themselves. And then it's, obviously exercises for calming oneself down. My favorite is deep belly breathing. It's the most simple in the world, but it's really accessible, and you can do it in any situation. So it's the belly expands as you breathe in and falls as you breathe out. And then we take it a level further and extend the out breath, so that the out breath is longer than the in breath. So you count, breathe into the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 6. And then accompanying that with some positive affirmations. So like I said earlier, we have certain beliefs about ourselves and the world, depending on which nervous system state we are in. So I get them to do an exercise to finish the 2 sentences, I am, and the world is, in those different nervous system states. So for me personally, when I'm in the calm state, I believe that I am capable, I am loved, I am safe, and the world is a welcoming place. The world is a safe place. Whereas when I'm in the fight or flight, I believe I am inadequate, I am not enough, and the world is a dangerous place. So then what I use when I am in that fight or flight state, I will use the positive affirmations from the safe state. So I will, as I'm doing the deep breathing, I would say, I am safe, the world is safe. And that's like core, basic, really simple nervous system regulation. Sometimes people need something stronger, and then we'll do stronger things, which, might be shaking, might be tapping, might be humming. But I always like to have that basic one, because it's really, you can use it in any, you can be in a social situation and you can use it in a crowded room, and people are comfortable using it in a crowded room. A lot of people won't be comfortable starting jumping up and down and shaking in a crowded room. So I like to go with that one first. You can expand it and add lots of things to it. Maybe we can talk about it, maybe not. That is my foundational regulation practice to go from fight or flight to rest and digest.
I love that. Yeah, the diaphragmatic breathing for me as well. I think that one is so powerful. Just I notice that a lot of people don't know how to breathe properly, and so their brain is deprived of oxygen, and that's also contributing to like the misperception of dangers or threats, and when they're not always there, or to the severity that think they are. So yeah, I love that, and something that people can do on their own too. It's something so simple, and taking a few deep breaths. Like even myself, like I'll be, obviously, like my work's really intellectual, so I'm on the computer a lot, and my body doesn't always like that because I'm high energy, and I like to be moving, and so sometimes I'll notice myself getting kind of worked up, and it's like, so I've noticed my signals as well, but I'll take a few deep breaths, and then like I'm completely like calm. Like it's just amazing how receptive that my body is to it now. I've been doing it for years at this point, but yeah, it's really, really cool. And I just hosted a workshop for the hospital here, and so it was a lot of nurses that came, and it was a lot of diaphragmatic breathing to help them get into deeper meditative states, because when you're in a meditative state, it's not just your mind. When you're doing that deep breathing, you're sending signals throughout your body that it's okay to relax. That, like, not even that it's okay, like it will relax. You're getting all that oxygen, so everything's allowed to function, with ease, and so you can relax deeper. And it was hilarious because they were probably exhausted from the day, but they were just in this deep meditative state, and it was so good for me to like bring them to that state, because you also can't get to those deeper healing levels like right away. You have to have that you have to ease into it. You have to kind of get them into that relaxation phase where their body feels safe, and then you can do the deeper somatic stuff. So that's the body stuff, which we ended up doing tremor release exercises where their body was unconsciously releasing the tension and the stress and the trauma that it had been holding on to.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. And it's so cool because the first time I ran this workshop, the ladies were experiencing the tremors, but you couldn't really see them with the naked eye. But if I put my hand on their leg, you'd feel them shaking. You'd feel that release. But this time when I did it, and it was with the nurses, and I'm assuming it's because they have a stressful job day in, day out. They're under that chronic stress, right? So they probably had more to release. But you could see with the naked eye, a lot of their legs like were shaking.
Cool.
It was such an active release, and so it was really cool. I really incorporated, what you were saying, easing them into the parasympathetic through the more gentle practices, and then yeah, once they get past that gateway, then you can really do the deeper stuff where their body just does it on its own. And really, that's what we are. We're just guides to help them tap into their own abilities to heal this stuff. But yeah, it was really, really cool to see that. Yeah, it was like,
it's so cool when you get that real visual thing. Not that it's necessary, like the small tremors are just as valid and as powerful as the big tremors, but it's very cool. It's very cool when there is a big physical reaction. And actually, just tying in something else, which I think kind of came up in what you were saying. So I mentioned there were like these three primary nervous system states. There's the freeze as well, and we haven't really talked about the freeze very much. So the thing is, you can't go from freeze directly to rest and digest. You have to go from freeze through fight or flight to rest and digest. So what that means is, from freeze, maybe it's just start with doing really small movements, like you're saying, just gradually easing into it to be able to then express the fight or flight and then go into the calmer state.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up, because the transition from freeze to fight or flight, that's literally just your body processing body and mind processing what's happened. So yeah, it's you have to come through that as you're processing it. This traumatic thing that put you in freeze in the first place.
Exactly.
And I mean, this is otherwise known as shock as well. When people go into shock, that's pretty much what freeze is. You don't really know what to do. You're not thinking, like, yeah. So it's like oftentimes when, let's say paramedics or people who know what to do in certain situations, but it happens to a family member. That's why doctors don't operate on their family members, like, because it puts them, that, that's why there's always like that,
Yep.
they want that someone who's like objective to
Yep.
do stuff, because you might know CPR and you might know how to save their life in a certain situation, but if it's your own relative, you might react differently,
Yeah, definitely.
because there's that emotional tie. So yeah, that's really, really good that you said that, because there's definitely needs to be that processing period for the body to release the stuff. And that's why when people are reaching out, like, it's so nice, because they're at that stage where they've accepted that sometimes it's hard to guide yourself through this on your own, because you're obviously too close, it's yourself. So having somebody guide you through these steps gradually and gently and with compassion, it really enhances for a deeper experience.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And actually, just that, having someone who is regulated, someone who is to hold that safe and compassionate safe space is really, really helpful. Especially often with people who have experienced trauma, they need someone who is regulated. They need someone who holds that kind of unconditional, positive feelings, compassion towards them, in order to help them to navigate through it.
Definitely, yes. And it doesn't always need to be like a practitioner per se, like, unless people are, on the, unless they're motivated to really like work with someone and get these deep things dealt with. They might just need, like, a friend or a partner. And that's why, when people are even unconsciously, when they're looking for a partner, they're looking for someone stable. They're looking for someone to make them feel safe, because who wants to live in a state of fight or flight when someone's constantly yelling at them, or when that safe feeling, that regulated feeling, it's appealing, especially for people who are maybe anxious or have lived a long period of time in fight or flight. That's going to be more appealing to humans who need that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So there's this story. So there's this guy called Peter Levine, and he designed this program, somatic experiencing, which is a way of healing trauma, but very much using somatics, using the body. And so he has this story where he went through a traumatic car accident, and his body shut down. He couldn't even remember what happened. And then after that, he was in the presence of someone who held a really compassionate, loving space. They were regulated. They had a nice, low, soothing tone. And that allowed him to shake, to release it, and to process and move on to on that journey of healing. But it just really illustrates how powerful having somebody who's loving and regulated
Right.
can be.
Right. And I mean, energetically, people can feel that. If you're not regulated and your energy's all over the place, for one, the person might not even have the energy to help you, because they're not regulated themselves. So, that's very consuming when you're in fight or flight, energetically. So somebody who is regulated, just because I do the energetic work, so just going into a little bit of that understanding as well, like, the person who's regulated might even have like protective boundaries over their energy, so they're not even going to become depleted from being surrounded from people who are in fight or flight, because they're so regulated and they're so strong in their presence, that it's not going to be a consuming transfer of energy, but it's more of like a feeding and uplifting transfer of energy.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
that's again why people love being around people who are regulated and calm. And for me, I also I do guided meditations and audios on online,
Yeah.
And so like one thing that feedback that I hear about my voice is like, and other healers I notice as well is they have that lower tone, like calming voice. It's like to the point where the frequency of their vocal cords are connecting to a part of that person and physiologically making them feel calmer just by it's like how you when you're
Mm,
listening to a sound or a frequency makes you feel a certain way, but like hearing
yeah.
certain people's tones of voices, also helps with that energetic regulation, which contributes to the physiological regulation as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. I never really actually looked at it that way, that it's that regulated state that's transmitting through the voice, and it makes sense, but I'd never specifically looked at it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's I had like just pieced that together like maybe when I first started it's maybe a year ago when I first started putting these online, and people were like, oh, I love your voice. And then I heard one of my other friends, Jaylyn,
Mm, yep.
she was doing guided audios as well, and I was listening to her voice, and I was like, just listening to her voice was putting me to sleep in the best way. It was like calming my nervous system to a
Yeah.
level that I hadn't even really like felt in kind of a while. So I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, you're definitely meant to be a healer. Like you're definitely meant to help people, guide them through these meditations. Like this is, you have the perfect voice for it. And I remember like just feeling like actual like goosebumps and like,
Mm,
when someone's like tickling your back, you feel that like shudder. Like I was feeling that and like I wasn't even being touched. So I was like, okay, there's definitely a
yeah.
physiological response to the tone of her voice. But it makes sense. Like I even use tuning forks, and they're all tuned
Mm,
to a certain frequency, and I
yeah.
mean we listen to guided meditations, and different frequencies are going to tune you to different intentions. So it all
Yeah.
it all matters energetically at the end.
Yeah, definitely. It makes sense. And it's funny the thing you said about the meditations as well, because I'm very fussy about listening to guided meditations. And there's actually loads out there I just can't stand because of the tone of voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just made me think
Yeah,
of that.
it
But
makes
yeah,
sense. Makes sense. And you should be fussy, because if your body's being triggered by certain something and for XYZ reasons, you don't even need to know why you're being triggered. You just need to know that you're being triggered, and
yeah,
that specific thing is not for you. Because if you're trying to be calm in this, let's just example, the voice maybe sounds like someone who had put you through something, that made you feel a negative way. You're going to be thinking that you're doing good for your body, but you're actually putting it back into the state that you're trying to get out of.
yeah, totally. Um, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
And just actually before we move on, I meant to say, just tying in with that practice that I was saying for the nervous system regulation. It's important to practice that it regularly, so that the first time you're using it isn't in a triggered situation. So I always, we build up to it with my clients. They do that practice or their variation of that practice regularly, so that they can then do it. Then they have access to it for when they come into a triggered situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I-
Definitely. And yeah, the more you do it, the better, the quicker the integration. So the better prepared, the better equipped you are to deal with the situation again when it arises, whether it's external or whether it's an internal failing or trigger, you're gonna have control over that situation. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great point.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah, and how about you? Well, what are your favorite nervous system regulation things?
Yeah, like a lot of meditation and breath work as well. Pretty much everything we just spoke about, and then I
Oh
I
yeah.
really love incorporating the somatic work, because I I don't, yeah, like I said, you can only get to a certain level with just the mind work. There needs to be, because that's where everything's being stored, is in the body, and the mind's talking to the body
Yeah.
constantly. The body's listening to the mind nonstop. So once the mind is, quote unquote, like in check, and has the right affirmations. That's why affirmations are super powerful, and I use them as well,
Yeah.
because fake it till you make it, quote unquote. But even if you're thinking them, even if you don't believe it, your body's hearing it. And so
Yeah.
you'll say it to a point where, yes, feeling is stronger than just thinking it.
Mm,
But you'll say it so much that you'll start to believe it, and you'll start to feel it. That's why self-talk, and that's why the work that you do, it is so important. And I incorporate it a little bit, but not to the depths that you do. The retreat has it pretty heavily because that's laying the groundwork. Like that's pretty much like the first foundation of it, is like self-love and self-talk, and what are your values, and what are your health goals, and like bringing light to all those things allows you to pave the way, to go deeper into all the the other things, the somatic work and the body work, and then once you bring awareness to it, then you really care. Then you're motivated to pay attention to these things and incorporate all the different pillars of your health. So, but to not get too off topic, I really like the somatic stuff. Like I can't stress enough how important that is, because it's the mind's only one piece of the puzzle. But if you have to, you got to do both. And if you got to pick one, I would do the body first, because like if we were like, let's say we're short on time, I would do somatic stuff first, because again, you don't need to be consciously aware of it to release it through the body. The benefit is of bringing awareness to it in the mind is to help prevent it in the future, and to help the person heal from these patterns and cycles. But in the moment, you can do a lot of healing through the body without even bringing any awareness to it. Like I said, like the when people in the workshop and with the TRE stuff, like they were unconsciously, autonomically, like they were so in their parasympathetic nervous system. We did some vagus nerve stimulation as well, and they were so deep in their parasympathetic that they were unconsciously releasing this stuff. So it is so powerful. You don't even need to be aware of what you've been storing, but the benefit of bringing that awareness is prevention in the future.
Definitely. But again, I think that the body is an important part of that. Because if feeling recognizing the signals in the body of stress, I think those physiological simple symptoms can often come before the intellectual awareness. But yeah, because I teach mindfulness as well, and I'm always saying is if we can feel the impact that things are having in our physical body, we're much more likely to make the change we need, rather than it's just an intellectual understanding of something is bad for you. So instead of knowing, okay, this, whatever it is I'm doing is bad for me, this behavior, this thought pattern, if you can really feel in your body how that whatever it is impacting you, it comes much more naturally, much more organically, it just happens, changes much more. You're much more motivated, I'd say, even to make that change.
It's true. And like as a practitioner who, like, I really stress, like I wouldn't let any of my clients do something that I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't like let them take a supplement that I wouldn't take, and I wouldn't like, so I'm very much of living the life that I basically help people like preach. So I live this life, and knowing is one thing, but feeling is another. And that's another big thing that I do, is helping people connect to their body so that they can feel what feels good. What foods does your body crave? And are they craving it because are they addicted to crap foods? But if you start eating whole foods, okay, what is your my body literally craves whole foods. Like I crave like a good kale salad with like olive oil and like balsamic vinegar and hemp heart. Like I literally crave it, and like I crave like a nice smoothie, and like it's just like, and obviously like my toxic food is chocolate. I freaking love chocolate. It's so it's my weakness for sure. And I know it's like my body, I have a good gut. Like it pretty much doesn't get upset, or it doesn't hurt or anything, but I know that it's like, it's not the best thing, but other than that, and I'm learning to, like, my body's craving it because it's trying to bring extra awareness to the fact that it's not something that my body needs. So a lot of times your body will crave foods that aren't good for them, to try and like bring it to that next level of awareness. But again, to go back, like my work is really to help people reconnect with their body, so that that you're not just knowing what to do, but you're feeling it. So you're on autopilot from listening to your instincts, and you're listening to your body and listening to what it needs, so that your day-to-day life can be so healthy, and you don't even have to think about it, because you're operating from this pure intuitive state, that your mind and body are so connected with knowing what it needs and then feeling what it needs. And so you're just doing that. And I, obviously there's deeper levels that I would love to reach, but I'm definitely there. I don't even need to think about it sometimes. And the only time that I think I need to get better at it is being on the computer for long periods of time, just because a lot of my work is online. And I'm so obsessed with my business, and I'm so obsessed with helping people and creating new things to help serve people, that I just, like, my body will, like, I'll start to get nauseous when I've had too much time on the computer, because my body's like, before it starts to yell, it will just be like, okay, it's time to stand up. Like, it's time to walk away. Like, you've had enough radiation from the computer for right now. Like, you need to just walk away. So, yeah, it's cool. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great when you get it. I mean, I think that's the ideal, is getting to the state where you're naturally, intuitively guided by your body's signals, rather than intellectually imposing what you think you should be doing to be healthy or thriving, or
Right.
whatever. Coming from that natural, intuitive, body-based sense, I think is for me anyway, is definitely the ideal.
For sure. And I push that, and it's so important, because there's so much noise out there on what is good for people and what is the miracle thing and blah blah blah. And nothing is a miracle thing for everybody. Like, the one thing that, and like most of the stuff that even I say, like, if a client's coming to me, it's because they've felt a pull that there's something that I offer that can help them. But if they're not coming to me, then great. There's nothing that I'm offering that's going to help them that they need. So they need to go somewhere else and get that from someone else, because not everyone's body needs the same thing, and not everybody's life story has brought them to a state in their health where everyone's going to heal the same. Like, it's just, that's impossible. And it's crazy. It's so ignorant to think that, that's why, like, the best protection is being connected to your intuition on what is best for your health. That is the only way you're going to truly protect your health and take care of it and let it thrive, is listening to yourself. Because if you're listening to all the noise, people who haven't even asked about your health history, they're telling you to take this pill, get this shot, whatever it is, like, you don't know that that's the best thing, because they don't know you as a person. And I think it's the key to taking care of ourselves, is connecting to ourselves.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Because yeah, like you said, we're all different people, things work for different people. And also everyone has different theories about what the ultimate health thing is. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, but there is no ultimate health thing. It's
exactly.
like, again, the ultimate health thing, I guess, I'm
Yes.
gonna be a hypocrite, and is connecting to yourself,
Yeah.
is making those decisions for yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, but that's beautiful. Wow, I feel really good. I feel really good
Mm,
about that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We really do have the best chats.
I love them. I find them very energizing and
Me too.
affirming.
Yes, agreed. I
Yeah.
agree. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or anything else you wanted to touch on?
I think that's most of it. I could talk for days about the nervous system. I'm always trying to figure out how do I make it more concise. I have one last tip I will put out there.
Mhm.
Which is a little more abstract, and it's something you need to spend some time exploring a little bit. But basically, so the body is always receiving signals from everything, and ultimately every signal is either a signal of safety or a signal of danger. So in order to calm the nervous system, what you need to do is reduce the signals of danger and increase the signals of safety. So taking time
Mm.
to discover what signals communicate danger to you, and they could be something as simple as like certain movements that people make, somebody's
Mhm.
certain pitches of voice, like we were saying.
Mhm.
So really exploring, if there's a situation to trigger, what are the small thing, the less obvious things that might be triggering to you. So it's
Yeah.
bringing awareness to that, doing what you can to reduce signals of danger. For some people, I'm really sensitive to sounds. I'm sensitive to lights. Really bright lights, stressful to me. So as much as possible, I try not to have bright lights.
Yeah.
I have things to help reduce strong sounds for me. So reducing signals of danger, and learning for yourself what are things that soothe you. Maybe there are colors that help you feel safe. Maybe there are sounds that help you feel. Maybe often physical, like some people like physical touch, squeezing their hands, giving themselves a hug, tapping, humming.
Yeah.
That's things you can do with yourself, or whatever it is. So just really, really getting clear, what are things that help you feel self-soothe and make you feel calmer. And they might not be like any of the things we talked about. They might be
Mhm.
like I said, an object that makes you feel calm.
Exactly.
Just
Very subtle things. And
exactly.
everyone's past is going to be different. So, in alignment with that, no judgment. It's important not to bring judgment onto your triggers, because you don't know. And like self-compassion, that 5-year-old you who was triggered by someone who maybe raised a hand to them and you thought they were going to hit you, or maybe they did hit you, or whatever it was, or 5-year-old you, have compassion for that, the fact that you were a kid and you didn't know what was happening, and it made you feel a certain way, and that's okay. But understanding that that could be why it's something like that is triggering you now, and there's no need to bring judgment to it. Just that mindful awareness without judgment. I think that is what mindfulness is not bringing judgment to it. And just noticing it for what it is super important. But yeah, sorry, is there anything else on that topic that you'd wanted to say?
No, I'm very glad you mentioned that. I think that's really important, to be accepting and kind to ourselves where we are. Whoever is listening to this, it's always important to remember you're trying your best, and that's perfect. It's more than enough. So yeah, but just if we could all be a little kinder to ourselves, and remember that would be great.
Definitely. And your body knows what to do instinctually. Like, again, I just wanted to, when I started learning about the vagus nerve, and humming being something that helps people calm it, go into that parasympathetic, the rest and digest state. It's funny because I can piece together, like, when I get nervous, I'll hum, or when I'm scared,
Mm,
I'll start to hum, and like, I'll notice that in my life, before I learned what the vagus nerve was, I would just do that, and because my body would just automatically know what to do, even though I didn't know why it was doing that, it would just do that. And that's maybe why people talk when they're nervous, because they're that talking stimulates the vagus nerve, and humming stimulates it. So
mm.
your body's trying to calm itself down. So really, yeah, again, listening to the body, and intuitively understanding, what it needs, and that it already knows what it needs. We just need to listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And sorry, I could go on forever, but just like kids, like children know how to self-regulate. Children do all
Oh yeah.
sorts of weird things. They shake themselves, they jump up and
Yeah.
down.
Yes.
They know how to self-regulate, and then it just,
Yeah.
we learn we have to behave a certain way to fit in with
Exactly.
society, and we lose it. But so it's there. We know we just have to go on that journey of rediscovering what
Right.
it is, what it
And
was.
I know you didn't mean anything by it, but you said children do a bunch of weird things, and we're accustomed to think that it's weird, but it's not weird. What they're
Yeah.
doing, and it's not weird in the sense of like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
It's completely normal, and it's actually like the amount of knowledge that kids have to offer us, because we've forgotten, or we're, not we, but like adults in society is so we're on that road of disconnect from ourselves, and we've gone on it for so long, that kids are the key to how to get back on that. Truly, and because they're intuitive. They only know their intuition at this point. Up
Yeah.
until we start instilling other things in them, but they just operate from intuition, and that's beautiful, and um, that's pure.
Yeah. Definitely, we have so much to learn from children, and animals as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. That's why, yeah, my animal is my therapy animal.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Mirin, thank you so much for joining me and our audience today. It was a pleasure to speak with you as always.
Yeah, thank you so much. I totally agree. I love our conversations, and then look forward to our next one.
Yes, definitely. Yes, there will be more, 100%. Thank you for joining us on Heal for Real Radio, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.